Welcome back to YellowCard Vanguard. I'm your host Toku from It's Toku TV on Twitch. It has been a long while and Clan Collection 5 and 6 have already been out for quite some time, but I figured this is going to be a mainstay of the channel, so I've taken some time out of my failing job search to give you, the viewers, what you want. My based, red-pilled, and Giga takes on the new cards and supports for Clan Collections 5 and 6. Once again, we need to preface the video as well as the rest of the series by letting you know that these lists are made at face value using my skills of card evaluation. They will need playtesting to fine-tune, but I hope they will serve as a good reference point for filthy net deckers to piggyback off of. Welcome back to Clan Collection Cores. Big idiot swing, hit face hard, opponent cry, we laugh. Dimension Police this time around got some laughable support. One new D-Robo and 2 pack fillers. Let's just quickly get into the cards. The Evil Dictator, Dark Dimensional Robo, Reverse Daiyusha. Auto effect in hand. At the end of the battle, your grade 3 or greater Vanguard with D-Robo in name attacked. If all the units that attack this turn was D-Robo, you can counterblast 1 and ride him as stand. He loses the drive, and for the rest of the turn, you cannot superior ride. Also an act skill on the Vanguard circle, lock 2 D-Robos to debuff your opponent's Vanguard by 10k. I like it. It's pretty simple and it synergizes with the Daiyusha grade 3 ride very well. It gives us some aggressions that we can put out while the opponent is still at grade 2. D-Robos also have a good set of rear guards with act skills to lock for reverse's effect. The weak point is that debuffing the Vanguard, although equates to an effective 10k front row buff, specifically in D-Police, it's not quite the same since it's not our power that's increasing and reaching certain threshold. The end point is that it's an easy early game method of stacking force markers alongside Daiyusha and puts on a lot of sentinel pressure between Daiyusha's swing and then having it pop out on the rewrite for reverse's swing. Next up, Enigman Storm. Okay, this is based. Enigmans are based, love me some Ultramans. Cont VC skill, during your turn, this unit gains 5k for each card with Enigman in its card name in Soul. And an auto skill on the Vanguard circle, at the beginning of the attack step, if Enigman Storm's power is 20k or greater, gains a crit. If 35 or greater, gains a drive, and if 50k or greater, gains the red text once per turn, discard 2 and restand at the end of its battle, but its drive becomes 0. 35k to gain a crit and a drive doesn't need opponent to be a grade 3. This isn't bad. We can probably hit 35k on our first turn with force and some Enigman ride targets. Let me check my notes on how many Enigmans there are in the V format. Oh. Okay, maybe next set. Jokes aside, with any grade 3 buffer and riding over Kaizard or an endless float, we could get to 35k on our first ride. Another thing to note is that because Enigman Storm says at the beginning of your attack step and not battle phase, rewriting into Storm from Brad Black can still get you the effects. Finally, Metalborg Mist Ghost. Huh, that's strange. There are only 2 new cards for Dimensional Police this set. Weird. Okay, let's get into the list, starting with Reverse Yushas. So the win con of this deck is very simple. Hit face until they die. Between Kaiser's crit pressure as well as Kaiser's sentinel pressure, alongside double re-rise from Great Daiyusha into Reverse Yusha, you have 5 drive checks and 3 tries to punish your opponent for single PGing. So looking into our grade 3 lineup, we've got our 4 Daiyusha. He is our first ride and our best rearguard. With Daiyusha is also 4 copies of Reverse Daiyusha. 2 cards built for each other. The speed and aggression of this deck going first is actually kind of unrivaled. Kaiser with a crit into reverse for an extra 2 force markers. Then to round out our grade 3s, we have a Great Daiyusha. The turn after we ride, if we've gathered enough power through force markers for our various buffers, we can go from reverse to grade back to reverse for our double rewrite game ender. We only run 3 copies of Great Daiyusha since he also has a if you did not ride this turn clause, and with our draw engine and multiple drive checks a turn, we're hoping to find at least 1 for turn 4. In our grade 2 lineup, we have 4 copies of Daiydragon. Daiydragon is first a D-Robo, which is important for a reverse's condition for lock as well as attacking units. It also has a somewhat useful ability to buff our Vanguard 5k if we're missing that little bit of threshold to hit 35 or 45. We also run 4 copies of D-Robo Kaizard. Similarly, it's also another D-Robo name, but it's also really good ride target to get that extra force onto the Vanguard circle. Something like Kaiser over Kaizard into reverse gets us 4 forces in a turn. 2 on the Vanguard circle and 2 for us to choose where we want. I usually put 3 on the Vanguard and 1 on the rear, so it's easier for us to hit 45k on the turn after. Finally, 2 copies of Endless Float. This is also a really good ride target to give our Kaiser an extra 10k to get us closer to that 35k threshold. Also gives us the ability to exchange a 5k shield in hand for an extra attack in a cycle. Just be wary to not attack with this until you rode into reverse, or otherwise you would turn off the condition. Into our grade 1 lineup, we're running 4 copies of Die Prop as my favorite grade 1 ride target. But a common theme will be that these are ran for their D-Robo names and their ability to buff the Vanguard to hit certain thresholds. Die Brave is making a return in this deck. We do a lot of soul blasting between Die Dragon, Die Prop, and Die Brave himself, and having a way to replenish the soul outside of a rewrite is very handy. And even when we get to the mid-late game when we're attacking with our Vanguard multiple times a turn, something is eventually going to connect and we'll be able to convert our Braves on the board into new cards in hand. 3 copies of Dice Cooper as an alternative ride target and buffs our Vanguard 5k. Woo, D-Robo name, woo, you guys are probably sick of the same spiel over and over. And then finally, the one of Commander Laurel. This is kind of a meme and kind of not. He helps push for lethal thanks to that extra crit and pushes your Vanguard into that mandatory PG territory. The rest for rearguard cost doesn't really matter much, considering Kaiser doesn't need to be standing to do its ping, and all of our rearguards can support our Vanguard through axe skills, and then after being rested for Laurel, you can lock it for Daiyusha reverse skill. You just get a lot of value from your onboard skills. In our trigger lineup, I've opted for 6 draw, 6 crit, 4 grade 3 heal guardians. Every time we do DP, I always have to reiterate that the heal guards being grade 3 is a great boon for this deck. Yes, we're not on Dieliner on our list, but it's a grade 3 name to be checked for Kaiser. The crits we run have to be D-Robo name for those extra small percentages, and I opted to go for the draws for just that small extra bit of draw engine, but it's also good discard fodder for Float and Kaizard. I think it's okay to give up the crit ratio since there's enough pressure from Kaizard on the rearguard, and Kaiser on that first run already gets us a crit. Now let's talk about some cards that were not ran. I opted to omit Dieliner this time around, because as good as a card Dieliner is, he doesn't really get maximum value in this list that looks to end our turns on reverse. Maybe in a more aggressive meta where ending your turn on Dieliner and threatening with that big 33k triple crit and having the defensive power to back it up may be better. But with reverse, we look to be more aggressive. That single counterblast that we're given is probably better spent on rewriting into reverse over Kaiser and gaining those extra forces. I still think Grand Rope might be a good idea in this deck to find Kaisers to put on the rear, find reverses and greats to hold in hand, but I felt prioritizing our Vanguard buffers and having names was more important to specifically showcase reverse. And finally, Twin Order. Though very good for being a buffer and getting our Vanguard to hit those large power thresholds, it just didn't have the utility that I was looking for. Let's take a look at the Enigman deck. Enigman Storm right now is a very lonely Enigman, but through force markers and some Vanguard buffers, we can still get him to a semblance of a fearsome mess. An Enigman Storm deck would look more similar to a Good Stuff DP deck, including more generics such as Brad Black, Endless Float, Endless Chaser, as well as Grand Rope to handfix for the proper grade 3 ride and the rewrite pattern. Commonly, we look to ride into Kaiser first, rewrite into Brad Black, which will rewrite us into Enigman Storm, and use Enigman Storm's effect to hopefully have enough power to become a twin drive again. Between Kaiser's natural crit and Enigman's natural crit, we choose to play a heavier draw count to find our pieces. But this is a fairly simpler deck that uses the good stuff cards that DP has. In conclusion, D-Robos were already the go-to for DP in the V Premium format, but we had focused on the more defensive variant with Dieliner and having the option to Brad Black back into Dieliner so that we keep our defensive power. Daiyusha Reverse gives us new potential to D-Robos, giving us potentially a third Vanguard swing and giving more value to our rearguard Kaisers. Some games you might just win through drive checking blanks when your opponent only gives 1 PG and you get to ping twice, and sometimes that's okay. In any case, that is it from me for this episode of Clan Collection Cores. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and leave a comment down below because every little bit helps. This has been Toku from YellowCard Vanguard. Toku out.